1. Hello, everyone, and welcome to your last official online lecture regarding content. So I'll explain what's going to be happening over the next 2 weeks on your placement. This is a placement lecture that I strongly recommend that everyone watches again just before you go into your placement, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of information I'm going to present this evening, and you might need a little bit of time for everything just to sink in so that it makes sense. So I just want to say a big thank you to everyone and how you all did such an awesome job throughout these last 6 weeks in our classes. Had some wonderful feedback from Queena and Trudy about your engagement, and I was very impressed myself for the classes I was teaching as well. We hope that you enjoyed the practical activities. We hope that you learned something new about the field of early child education, and we just wanted to prepare you for your placement and also teach you what the field is about, give you an introduction, and that you've learned something new regarding early childhood education. So before I go into the main content, it's always important that we have our acknowledgement of country. So on behalf of those present, I acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we now meet. I pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging. I also pay my respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people of Australia and hope that the path towards reconciliation continues to be shared and embraced. So you'll see that when you go into your placement, there will be lots of Indigenous links. So it's really important that you have a good understanding for that placement. So as I said today, your focus is going to be all about preparing for your placement. I'm just going to run through some housekeeping with you. And I'll also type this into the chat for you as well. So today I will be going through placement expectations, so you are as prepared as possible for Monday. And then tomorrow night, I will be finalising the assignment 2 lecture by going through the rubric, because last week I unpacked it for you. And what's going to happen in weeks 7 and 8, you are going to have online sessions, but these are called drop-in sessions. And the reason why we're doing drop-in sessions is because we are here to support you. That's part of the course. So you need these contact hours with us, so we support you, but we know that you're going to be very tired after a long day of placement, and even some of you might have a shift that might go into 5:30. So you'll be following what your mentor does. So what these drop-in sessions do is I won't be teaching you any new theory. We've covered all the theory for the unit. What the Wednesday sessions are going to be doing, so it'll be Wednesday, 5:30 p.m. drop in. So this is a session where you just come in and we just have it like a little debrief chat. So you can just we'll have a little chat about how your placement is going. And if you've got any like questions around things happening, I can address it the best to the best that I can in that session. So it's more like a debrief as well. So you might have questions around child development that you've observed in your placement, and you want to probably know a little bit more in terms of the theory, and I can probably give you more support in that regard. So that is what the drop-in session is for. If you cannot make the drop-in session, that's totally understandable, but just to be clear, there will be no new theory, so don't feel like you're going to be missing out on anything. And I just got to double check if the drop-in sessions are recorded, because it's more like a Q&A, just like your Canvas questions. Now, the Thursday, that's also going to be a drop-in, Thursday, 5:30 p.m. And that is a drop-in Q&A assignment session. So it's basically like your discussion board, but live. So if you've got any assignment questions, that'll be the time where you just ask me assignment 2, and you'll see that you'll be linking your placement into your assignment 2 questions. So you may find that you'll also be talking about your placement and assignment at the same time. So we hope that those 4 online sessions will complement each other and support you for your placement and your second assignment. So that's how those sessions are going to be running. So upside is no readings for the next 2 weeks. You just focus on your placement and going back through your notes, through the textbook for your second assignment. I hope that's clear and that makes sense to you on how we'll be running the next 2 weeks. Okay, so I just want to go through some key points here, and these slides are already accessible on your Canvas. So I need to highlight that you need to do 37.5 hours a week. Now, I've had some people already say to me that their mentor is going to be in the center for maybe 2 or 3 days a week, and that there's some concerns around the timing. So at least try and get the minimum of 25 hours. If you cannot get those 25 hours, you want to be strategic and polite when inquiring to the center regarding those hours. So here's a statement I would say. How will the center ensure that I will be able to meet the requirement of at least 25 hours in relation to the university passing criteria? Okay, so if you are concerned that your hours are not going to meet the minimum of 25, I would use that statement. Don't say things like, I need to change my mentor. No, don't say things like that. You have to be very professional in the way in which you engage with the center directors and your mentor. And you just have to be careful with the wording you use. So a statement like that should be fine because you're just checking how will the center make sure that you are going to meet the 25 hours because it is a university requirement that you do the hours for the placement to pass the unit. And just keep in mind that when a placement has agreed to take on a student, they would have read through the documentation and the requirements. So they do have an awareness of what's happening on the placement. Okay, so you want to be spending time shadowing your mentors, and in that time you'll be working with planning. Now, you are not expected to be planning by yourself. And I'm going to go through those documents later on in today's slide where your mentor does the planning and you'll be sitting with them and you'll be learning from them how to plan. And if you feel comfortable, maybe offer some suggestions. This is where you'll be asking those questions around, so how do you cover all 5 EYLF outcomes? Or why are you focusing on this outcome? Or how do you focus on looking at those developmental domains? So these are the questions I've been getting in my classes, people asking me, like, there's so much information, how do we cover everything? And this is your opportunity to get those answers because yes, there is a lot. So how do you cover everything? And ask your mentor, so which outcomes are we focusing on and why? And how can I do this? So my best advice is to do well in your placement is to have that willingness to learn from your mentor. You want to learn from their knowledge and their experience and their expertise. And mentors really like that feeling. They love that being able to pass on the knowledge to somebody new. It's a great feeling. It's that's what we do as teachers. We want to help and guide people in their teaching journey. So definitely ask those questions around, so how can I do this? And how do I do that? And can you show me? Can you model this to me? Those are the kinds of conversations you want to have with your mentor. Remember, things like setting up the room and cleaning up are requirements of your placement. So there are some documents. So you can see the documents down here. The first 5 documents in the placement hub. So the expectations and requirements document, which is further down, which I'll show in a minute. That's the one that says the first 5 days and days 6 to 7 in the different colors. You want to have a copy of that on you. You'll definitely need your emergency contact form. So with your emergency contact form, you want to print out the form, fill in the details and stick it into an envelope and have it in your folder, and then tell your mentor that your emergency details are in the folder. So if anything happens to you, they know where to go. They go to your folder and they take out the envelope straight away and they call the ambulance or hospital or doctor, whatever service is required in case anything does happen to you. Your attendance diary should be at the front. The attendance diary, this needs to be at the front of your folder, because every day your mentor has to sign off on this. You need to put in the date and the time that you arrive, and they sign it in straight away. The next one is the introductory poster. So I put on the canvas to bring the pages to class. So you need to fill that in. And on the very first day, give that poster to your mentor for them to put up, so that people are aware of who you are, and that you're a student from Swinburne. And that's important too, because there might be a casual relief teacher in the centre, and they might be asking you to do something, but the problem might ask you to do something that's out of your skill set at the moment, or you might have parents questioning what is your role there. So it's really important to have that information up, and it's also complying with that NQS standard of providing a safe environment, so that that we don't allow strangers into the centre. People know who you are. So it's also to protect the safety of the children and the staff there as well. The permission letterhead for doing your observations. So what you need to do is, when you are doing your observations, before you send the letterhead home, have a discussion with your mentor, and they will guide you into selecting a focused child, one focused child, for your observations. You'll be using those observations for your assignment, and I'll talk more specifically around that tomorrow night, regarding observations and assessment too. But once your mentor has helped you pick the student, then you will give the form to the parents and ask for consent for their child to participate in your observation collection. I'll talk more about that a little bit later on. Please make sure you present a copy of your Working with Children check. Centres will request to photocopy it, so they have a copy on their records. And your centre might give you any extra documents. It might give you an overview of their policies, the room you're in. They might give you a hard copy of the timetable, the expectations. So whatever documents that you're given, keep them to your folder. Now, let's go through this point here. What happens if you are feeling unwell and you cannot attend the placement? So you must contact the professional experience team. So this is their email. So what you need to do is, in the morning before you start the placement, not like, you have a headache, for example, and you snooze till like 9 o'clock in the morning, and you're supposed to be at placement at 7 a.m., for example. You can't do that. You need to be very proactive and diligent for your placement. So you need to contact the placement experience office as soon as possible, and then straight away contact your placement centre and let them know that you are not coming in for the day. Now, it's really important that you have to provide evidence of why you're not attending that day. So you need to send the placement experience team and provide your mentor the next day when you go back your medical certificate, or a statutory declaration form if you cannot get a medical certificate. If you do not have a medical certificate, that is going to negatively impact your placement. So please make sure you do follow the correct procedures regarding your placement, and then you'll have to do makeup days for the days that you do miss out on. And the last part is what you need to do on the final day of placement. There will be an online report. So a link will be sent to your coordinator. So on the last day, you will sit with your mentor and they will go through the report with you. And then they will, you'll upload the copy of the report and your attendance diary to the in place section on the placement experience canvas. So not our canvas, EDU 60052, but your placement experience canvas. They want you to give that documentation. And you won't get your result until you upload the documents. And oh yeah, and then you also upload your final report in our canvas assignment 3. So you'll be doing some uploading there. And I'm sure like once we get closer to the date, you'll probably ask me again and I'll re-clarify this for you. Okay, so the next part is just keep in mind that there's going to be the placement team and myself supporting you throughout the placement. So the placement team, their role is to organize your placements, and they also provide your placement center with the documentation and the expectations and the criteria to assess you on your placement. They also keep a record of your attendance, and they are also a point of call if there's any tension happening in the placement. So if you're experiencing any tension, you need to go to the placement team, email Donna and Sheen. And if your mentor may have any queries or questions, they'll also contact the placement team as well. Just let you know that your mentor is getting paid to have you there. So their role is to actually support you and guide you and do the best they can, because they are being paid to be doing this role. So we do have that professional expectation of your mentor to do the right thing by you on this placement. As we said, there's communication between the team, the mentor, you, and you will liaise with the placement team. As I said, if anything comes up. Now, also remember that I am available to speak to as well. So if you've got any concerns around the placement or your mentor, please email me and I'll take a look and I'll see what I can do to support you. And if there's a situation where I feel like the placement team has to be involved, I will notify you of that as well. Just keep in mind that you're not alone. I know you're feeling a little bit nervous regarding your placement, but you do have a support system behind you. You have the placement team and you do have me as well. So I'm still running the unit for you. So just some information regarding the placement team. You can email them, the Professional Experience Placement email, between Monday to Friday, 9 till 4:30 p.m. and save their phone number for emergencies if you need to call them straight away. If something serious is happening and you need to talk to somebody straight, but don't just call them because you feel like you're not happy that day. So save that phone number for emergencies. Okay, so let's go through attendance. It is a 10-day placement, so we have that professional expectation that you are going to be completing those 10 days and fulfilling that minimum of 25 hours. So you are required to complete that timing. And as we said, if you are unwell, you must call or email the professional experience office, and call, don't just email, but actually call, and if you have to leave a message, your center before the day starts. So before your start time for the center as well. Don't call at lunchtime. Don't have a sleep in the call at lunchtime, because that is not professional and it actually goes against the NQS standards. And remember, you are being assessed against the NQS standards. As I've said before, you have to make up any missed days, and you have to provide a medical certificate to the Placement Experience Office. Now, in terms of you doing your makeup days, you need to negotiate that with your placement center and the professional experience office as well, because remember, we have a close down time. So you need to make sure that you are completing those makeup days before the course timing cuts off, because we have to take the enrollments into next quarter. In December, we have to stay in our timeline. If you miss that cutoff, then the consequence is you'll have to read the unit. Okay, how many hours can I work in these 10 days? So you need to show them the time between 25 to 37.5, and you need to negotiate with your mentor maybe a timetable with them. So it sounds good. They're pretty flexible, which is good, because some centers like, okay, you work these days and these times and that's it, whereas this one is asking you to spread out your timing over the 10 days. So I suggest Chelling to tell your mentor you need the timing requirement, 25 to 37.5 hours over 10 days. Sit with your mentor, look at their schedule, and plan a timetable with them. Does that help? Yeah. So as long as you meet those hours and it works for your mentor, then it should be fine. See, these are the questions that we need to be going through and having this conversation with, so that you are feeling really prepared for your placement. Okay, now this is a big thing, confidentiality. This is part of the standards as well. So you need to protect the privacy and information of the center, the staff working in the center, the children and their families. That means that you don't talk about where you are, because it is a professional workplace, and want to protect people's identities, especially young children's identities. So you cannot make any references to children or the names. So my recommendation is, if you're given a handout from your center and it has the logo and the name of the center and address, get a black texter and black it out. Or even if it's too big, just cut around the edge, so you delete any identifying information. That's why we say in your observations, use a pseudonym for your child. And now there is a tricky part, because you have the consent form for your child and it has the parent's name and their signature. So what's really important is that you have to be careful with your placement folder. Don't leave it lying around where someone can just pick it up and just read through and say, oh, I know this center, or I know this child, or here's the phone number of the parents for this child. You do not want someone's private information being leaked out. And there unfortunately was one time when there was a student and she was on the tram to go to her placement, and she was on her phone, and she forgot that she left her placement folder on the tram, and it was gone. It had all this confidential private information in the folder. So please be very diligent with your information you have. Keep it close to you. Keep it in your bag. Don't lose it. Don't forget it. Constantly double check. So just be careful with that. In terms of collecting information from your focus child, you cannot start until you get legal guardian and parental permission. You can't do that. And if you're collecting children's work samples, just be careful with that. You need to get permission from the child. If they've done a painting and they give it to you, just check with the child if it's okay. And if they write their name on it, you need to black it out, but don't do it in front of them. Don't cross their name out in front of them. Maybe when you get home, you get a black texter and you mark out their name just to protect their identity. We want to be respectful of all the people that we come across. And I want to really draw your attention to this top comment here. Please, 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 no social media posting, because you just don't know what's going to happen and how information makes its way out, because it does. Things happen, you'll be surprised what happens. So protect yourself. It's just 10 days. Don't post the name of the center, any names of teachers, your mentor, children, families. Just don't do it. Look, I know that a lot of you are in WeChat groups and you probably want to debrief with each other. But I'm sure that you can find a way where you can talk about your placement, but without giving that identifying information away. And I'm saying that just so you are protected, because if something comes out and goes against you, it can jeopardize your placement. And you do not want to be in that position, especially when it's a 10-day placement. It's a short placement. Just go for the 10 days, learn as much as you can, have fun with the children, experience a new environment, and see it like that. It's a learning experience, it's a life experience. It's not every day you get to go in and work with children and work in this field. It will be challenging, it'll be physically intense, but it's very rewarding, and it's a life experience that you're going to have. Okay, let's have a chat around photographs. So I personally wouldn't recommend taking photos, just to protect child identity. Plus your first placement, you're there to get a feel of how the atmosphere works. You're also there to learn from your mentor, how they work with all the frameworks and the curriculum, how they identify the theories, how they identify aspects of child development. So you want to be able to use this opportunity to bring those theoretical links into practice. So when it comes to photos, number one, never take a photo on your personal device, on your phone. Do not do that. It's child privacy. If your center has an iPad and they do photos on the iPad as part of their system, then that's a different story. You're following what the center does. But just to protect the child, don't do photos on your phone. And if you are doing photos on a center-based camera or iPad, it's best to get the backs of their heads and not get their faces unless your center wants the child's face for their planning purposes only. So remember, you're there to protect the personal information of the child, maintain their dignity, and remember, children have the right to say, I don't want to be in a photo, or I don't want you to do this. And as I said, there is no sharing of photos on social media at all. Please don't say, oh, this child was so cute today. Look at them climbing the tree, for example. Don't do that. I cannot stress that enough not to do that. I hope that's clear. Okay, so you have your professional codes and your standards. So these aren't all of them, but I just picked out a few just so that you are aware. So I'm just going to read through these. Always approach your placement with a positive attitude and demonstrate your enthusiasm for learning something new, from learning from your mentors, learning from the children, learning from the other teachers in the space. It's very important that you're punctual, you're on time, you're polite, you're professional, and you're focused. And I'll give you a little saying. It's always better to be 20 minutes early than 2 minutes late. So please make sure you are there on time. You're always polite and professional, and you're there to do a job to support children's learning. That's what we do in early childhood education. We support their learning, and we provide that caring environment for the child. Make sure you have your student ID card with you, and you're working with Children Check to prove who you are. Please make sure you have your phone off and you don't pull it out during your placement. I have worked in centres and I've seen students thinking no one's looking, and they're on their phone and they're texting or reading a story to the child. So they had the book up in one hand and they're texting in the other hand. So please just put your phone away. You don't want to be caught on it. It's not going to end well for you. That's what I can say from me being a mentor in the past. I suggest the only time to check your phone is during your break, especially your lunch break. And please remember that you are representing the university. You want to show them that, Swinburne has excellent students, and to give the placement centre, a positive view of Swinburne, because the last thing we want is a student to go in and who represents Swinburne, and the placement might think, oh, we don't want students from there again, because remember, you have more placements laid down the track. So we want to have those strong connections and relationships with centres. And another thing is early childhood is a very tight-knit field. People know people. So if you are looking for a job later on, it's important to remember that you are a representative and you want to be the best version of yourself while on your placement. And remember, you are a guest in that centre, so they are accommodating you. Just keep that in mind. So please make sure you avoid making any labeling, judgments, defamatory remarks, written or verbal, about students, families, colleagues, under any circumstances. Look, there could be a situation where, maybe you've experienced something that you don't agree with, or you feel like, hold on, I don't like this. But you just got to take a step back, take a deep breath, and just think, is it just like one of those things where you just feel like, oh, I'm just a little bit shocked by this? And if it is, just remember it's 10 days, just keep going and you'll get to the finish line. The only time that we'd expect you to say something is if you feel like that you're in physical danger and something is going to harm you. If you feel like that you're in that situation, then definitely reach out to us straight away so we can sort it out. And as I said before in the last line, avoid any social media posting regarding your experience. If you do need to debrief, you do have the placement team and you do have me to speak to as well. And if I see evidence of a situation that you need intervention, then I will contact the placement team and we'll do everything we can to support you. Okay, I know a lot of this information is a little bit repetitive, but you'll be surprised that when you start your placement, there's so much going on, you might forget these bits and pieces. So once again, I'm just going to reiterate these key points that 100% attendance is required. You must do all the 10 days, making up any days that you miss. Make sure that you meet all the requirements and regulations set by your center. Remember that your center is set up in a way to reflect the professional standards. So if you're thinking, why is this happening or why is that happening? Remember, it's to reflect the standards, the code of ethics, and the child safety standards. That's what we've been addressing those standards throughout our classes, and we'll be giving you all the documents for you to read and understand. If there's any changes to your placement, maybe halfway through your mentor teacher gets sick and they can't keep supervising you, they might choose another mentor for you. Can you please update the placement office straight away? Any changes, if you move into a different room, for example, you must tell the placement office that we have the information on hand. You must keep the attendance diary. As we said, attendance throughout this unit, in every class and placement you do, it helps you pass the unit. And we may send a representative out in case we feel that there is a need for that to happen. It's not guaranteed. That it may be an option after consultation with the placement office if anything happens. Okay, I know I'm talking a lot, but you can post questions in the chat if you want to ask anything. So let's talk about dress code. Please make sure you check in with your center regarding the dress code. Remember, you're there to look in to be tidy, professional at all times. At the same time, wear clothes that is suitable for the environment. So you want clothes that are comfortable, clothes that you can play in, clothes that you don't mind getting dirty. Like, I don't mean like dirt, mud, but I mean things like you're going to be sitting in the sand pit. You're going to be in the sun a little bit as well. You're also going to be doing things like painting, sitting on the floor, cooking, maybe food handling, depending on the center. You'll be cleaning as well. So you want to be in clothing that is also going to help you do those tasks on your placement. And you want to be professional and, like shirts that cover the chest, legs are covered as well. Footwear, runners are a good idea. Sneakers, don't wear black shoes. That's not going to be comfortable for you. So sneakers and runners, because you'll be on your feet a lot, so you want to be very comfortable with your footwear. No open toe shoes, no Crocs. They need to be closed, so runners are your safest option for shoes. This one is, okay, for people with long hair, tie it back. Please tie your hair up. For people who like to wear makeup, not recommended. You can put just a little bit on if that helps you feel confident and comfortable, that's fine, but please stay clear of the heavy eyeliner, especially fake lashes. I did work in a center one year where someone's fake lashes weren't glued on properly and it fell to the floor, and a baby that was crawling picked it up, put it into its mouth and started choking on it. So just be mindful of makeup. Glasses are fine. Now, jewelry, rings should okay. Okay, I'll answer that in a minute, Sherry. Let's finish this part first. Necklaces, make sure they're not loose hanging down because children might grab them. Same thing with the earrings as well. Those loopy long earrings, children can grab those. So just be mindful of necklaces and earrings. Bracelets, not really recommended. A watch, if you've got a watch, that should be fine. So just have this conversation with your mentor or center director around what's being worn. And just keep in mind, you're there to be You need to be dressed in order to do your role. So just keep that in mind. And I think that's it for dress code. Now let's get your question, Sherry. The corner has told you who your mentor is. Okay, when you say email, my question is, have you called them on the phone? Okay, I do still recommend to give a phone call rather than just email. I know it can be a little bit, you can be a little bit nervous calling on the phone for the first time, but it is important because you need to be proactive on your placement. One of my big tips is you need to step up and get involved, and you do not want to be seen as standing around and waiting, being told to do something. As soon as you step in, unless someone says, I need you to quickly go do this or do that, go straight to a group of children and start participating in play-based learning. So that's my recommendation. Okay, I want to go back to Sherry's question. Do you need to ask the mentor? Give them a call tomorrow, Sherry, just to check in who your mentor is and see if you'll meet them on the first day or if you need to go in and have an induction. That's my recommendation. When you finish, I have to check that your equivalence, because as you progress through the course, you'll be achieving certain qualifications. So just let me get back to you on that. You can send me an email and I can find the document for you, and that highlights at the end of each teaching period how your qualification goes up. Is that okay? Yeah, okay. Okay, if the centers come in, then they're probably going to have your first day as your induction day then. So you'll meet your mentor on the first day. But you can still give them a call and just check what their dress code is and things like that. In fact, I strongly recommend that you go onto the website and you research and you learn about your center as well. You read about their policies and their philosophy and their views and their values and the type of curriculum they use. Are they using EYLF? Are they using the VELF? Those kinds of things. Perfect, excellent. And also ask about food allergies, what you can't bring in to eat. I said last week, you'll be surprised the kind of allergies children have. Like I said about me, I have a capsicum allergy. So if someone walked into the room with a capsicum, that smell can trigger me and I'll need to use my EpiPen. So find out what you can and cannot bring for food. We'll talk about observations tomorrow, part of your assessment. Okay, so here are some tips I'm going to recommend for your placement. So what should you be paying attention to on your placement? So look at, how does your teacher teach? Do they teach small groups, big groups? How does your teacher start the lesson? How they introduce their teaching focus? How do they talk to children? How do they support children's learning? Why are they using certain strategies? What happens after they set up a lesson? And how do they help children transition into a new activity? So after they finish teaching, how do they help children move from one space to another? So do they use songs? Do they clap their hands? Do they use a sound like a bell? Do they put a timer on, a countdown? Do they have a special word like everybody freeze or waterfall? Think about how your mentor helps have smooth transitions in the room. And you won't see things like, hey, everyone stop, everyone quiet, time to go. They don't do that. They have lots of tips and strategies to have transitions. So just think about how this happens and take notes down as well. And I recommend that if you see your mentor do something and you really like it, you can go up to them and saying, I really liked how you did this. Can you teach me how you did this, or why are you doing this. You want to draw on the knowledge that your mentor has. You also want to look at how are children's learning needs catered for. So think about those developmental domains. How is every child participating? How are they being included in the learning? How are children grouped into activities? How's their engagement supported? Can you start to see links between your learning in the course to the placement? Can you start to see any theories coming through? So you might notice that your teacher, your mentor, use a lot of Vygotsky's work, for example, in their planning and the way in which they conduct themselves with children and their views of children's learning. How are children encouraged to talk? So when we spoke about language development in week 3, think about language development and how children's language and speech acquisition, how are they supported in the center? And think about how it links to the child standards and the milestones within your readings. Yeah, so there's a lot for you to think about on your placement. So you don't have to answer all these questions, but these are some things that you will notice, and there might be 1 or 2 things that you're probably very interested in based on your learning in the course, and you probably want to know more around that. So can you see children being supported in the areas of interest? How are their strengths supported? Do children present with any challenges? How does the centre support children moving through those challenges and help them grow to that next level? Think about your mentor. Do you like their teaching strategies? Is there something that you would like to repeat in the future or not do? And I'd admit, I've been on placements where I've had a mix of mentors I absolutely thought were amazing, and a lot of my teaching strategies came from my own placements. And at the same time, I've been on 2 placements that weren't so good, and I said to myself, I would never teach like that. So your placement is very eye-opening because it models to you what you believe is good practice and what you would like to do in your future teaching and what not to do in your teaching. So think about how it shapes your identity as a teacher and influences your own philosophy around education. So I've highlighted from the Placement Hub the key documents that you would be needing. So have the calendar printed out, any questions about the placement, the attendance policy, and what to do on missed days, your placement diary. Please make sure you have your poster ready for your mentor to put up, your emergency contact form, and the parent permission head. Yes, you can take notes during your teaching. So one thing I want to say is, I'm actually going to talk about this in here, expectations. Yes, I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Yeah, so let me go through the expectations, and then your questions via Queen, I will go through that in a second. So your first 5 days, and outlines what you need to do, and your day 6 to 10. I just want to add some extra notes around this. My recommendation, and you don't have to do this, but I strongly recommend if I was going to go into a placement, or if I had students coming to me, this is the advice I'll be giving them, and I'll be doing myself. Your first 3 days, treat those first 3 days purely as relationship building. When you go in, the first 3 days is when you give all the documents over. So you work with children, check your emergency contact form, your poster of who you are, and you just get into the center and you play with the children, get to know their names, get to know the educators in your room and in the center, and use those first 3 days as focusing on relationship building. Within the first 2 days, you want to sit down with your mentor and have a chat around your week by week expectations. And also, did I put that page in? I'm just checking quickly. Okay, you can talk about this slide. I recommend print this slide out as well. So go through the expectations. So what they expect of you, and have your negotiation talk with your mentor. So talk about, so when do they want you to be working with the children? When are the cleaning times? And when is a good time for you to, step away from the activities and do your focused child observations for about 10 minutes. So you need to negotiate that time with your mentor, because the last thing you want to do is you're sitting in the corner, you're doing observations, and your mentor's like, I need you to go do this. You want to have kind of like a schedule. So if you look at the routine of the room and negotiate with your mentor, okay, so when can I do my observations? So they give you that time, and your mentor has to give you that time, because we're stipulated in the requirements that you need time for observations. So you need to negotiate that with your mentor. If they're not giving you that time, let me know, because you need to, it's part of your, not just your assignment, but it's actually part of the placement, being able to do observations, because your mentor is also assessing your ability to do observations in your final report anyway. So first 3 days, definitely use that for relationship building. And I'd also recommend watch your mentor do observations, or if your mentor's not doing them, see who else in the room is doing the observations and ask if you could sit with them while they observe a child and watch how they take the notes and do the timestamps, and afterwards just nicely say, can I please have a chat to you regarding how you did the observations? Can you give me some tips, some tricks, some hints? So you want to be learning from the people in the space how they do their observations, and then you can say, can I please do a practice one with you? And that will help your confidence, your ability for you to do your own observations of the children. Now on day 6, I strongly recommend, so this is after the first week, on day 6, very politely and very nicely ask your mentor if you could please have a quick chat to check in with your progress. So this is where they're not assessing you, but you're just having a chat to see how you're going. And you can talk about, what are some things that are going really well? What are your strengths? And what are some areas to improve on? Because the areas for you to improve on, they're the areas that your mentor is probably going to think, I'm not going to mark so high in the final report. So now this is important. You want to take down notes in that little check-in meeting, because if your mentor says, for example, so-and-so, like they'll say, you need to work more on listening to me. For example, listen to my advice, take my feedback on board. They might say, write it down. So write down the date and the time. Mentor said, an area for my improvement is to focus on listening and taking on feedback. And the reason why I say that is because when it gets to them writing a report, and if you're sitting, it's a pass-fail. If they're finding reasons in the fail section, you can say to them, well, actually, in the meeting, you spoke about me focusing on this area, and here's how I tried to improve on this, and actually have some notes saying date and time. So I was in this section here, and I tried doing this. So try have the conversation with the mentor saying, yes, I've tried taking your feedback, and this is how I've tried to do it. So those check-in sessions are really important because they give you a good indication of how you're going on your placement. Okay, in the kindergarten. It depends. So some people might have a 2-year-old placement. So it's not always a kinder room. They don't always call it a kinder room. Some might call it preschool. They might have a toddler room. So just be mindful of what your mentor calls their space. So that's why I want to say around expectations. Have a chat with them on day 1 about what's expected, and then have a check-in chat on day 6 so that you know areas for you to work on, focus on, so that you have a successful placement. And please, 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 I strongly recommend when your mentor gives you feedback, if you feel like they're being a little bit critical of you, don't take it as a personal attack. Your mentor is trying to help you grow as an educator, and maybe you may find it a little bit confronting, but just remember that they're there to help you and guide you, and they're also there to support the children as well. They want to make sure that the children's priority is being taken care of. So here's just some tips around expectations from the NQS. So I went through the NQS document and I've pulled out, so I've matched with all the points you have to cover in your placement, and I've pulled out the key things for you to focus on in terms of what to do. So working with children, number 1, building relationships. Think about how you engage with children verbally and non-verbally. So we spoke about the eye contact, the smiling, high five, taking on board your mentor feedback and suggestions to support a positive relationship with the children. Families always being respectful and professional, learning about children's cultural identity and how that's supported, having an understanding children's holistic development. So thinking about your theory and the developmental stages and how that links to your observation notes and interpretation. So think about what are the observations showing you about the child, and how can this help you link to the learning domains and inform your next steps for your assignment 2. How do you work with your mentor to talk about planning and the planning cycle, the EYLF? Now remember, you are talking with your mentor. You're not expected to do planning. It's not part of your placement. And the last one is being professional. This is where people fall down in the placement. Follow your mentor instructions. Please don't argue back with them. Don't say, but I've already vacuumed 2 times today. No, please don't do that. Just follow the instructions. Ensure that you adhere to the hygiene practice of the center. If they ask you to wipe down something or mop something or tidy things away, please do it. Demonstrate that eagerness to learn, that enthusiasm, and if you're feeling comfortable, try and contribute some ideas in the planning meeting. It's just to show that you want to contribute to the center. So those are just some suggestions from me, informed by the NQS. So remember that you're there to have fun and you're there to support the children's learning. So try not to stress too much. My biggest tip is don't go walking in thinking about assignment, passing, failing. Don't put that out of your mind, because if you're too focused on that, then you won't be present in the space. And what your mentor is looking for is you being present in the space, you being supportive of the children, wanting the children to have a positive experience, supporting their learning. You want all those things. So that's my biggest advice to you, is go in with that desire to support children's learning. And that's basically it. Wishing you all the best with your placement experience. I will see you guys next week regarding your drop-in session, and tomorrow we have our assignment 2 lecture. So just reach out to me if you need anything, and good luck with your placement.